Hey guys, Miss Hendry here. Miss you guys, and I can't wait to get back and see you. All right, so this is day two of our my furthest back person discussion. All right, and so remember yesterday we talked about the story, how that it's an autobiography by Alex Haley about trying to research and find his furthest back ancestor. Remember we talked about how that slavery was a real problem, and that slavery had been around for a long time, and of course, America had changed, but um, there was just a lot of history there, and so Alex kind of didn't really want everyone else to know that he was doing research in this area. But through some contacts, he realized that, there was nothing to be ashamed about, and that he was going to find out some information. So he linked up with this doctor, and the doctor was able to had been in African villages and was able to tell him that some of the gibberish that his grandmother spoke when he was a child was actually not gibberish, but that it was Mandinka. And so it was actually an African language. All right, so Alex cannot believe that what he thought was foolishness from his grandma was actually his native tongue. Dr. Vancina makes a call to a friend named Dr. Philip Curtis and finds out that the name Kente was actually a very old clan that lived in Old Mali. And so he also learned that the Kente men were traditionally blacksmiths and the women were potters and weavers. That's really cool. And so they made pottery and they weaved blankets called kente cloths. It's really neat. All right, and so Alex then realizes that he must go to the Gambia River, so he decides to locate a Gambian native in the U.S. He finds a person by the name of Ebal Manga, and he got in touch with this man and ended up flying to Gambia with him. So and as he arrived, he met with government officials and asked them questions about his grandma's stories. So ultimately, he decides I need to get to go to Gambia, but he doesn't want to go alone. So he searches the United States for someone who's from Gambia, and he finds someone, and so they go together. But when he gets there, he meets government officials and asks them questions about his grandmother's stories. So they told him about a man named the Griot who could tell him all about the old history. The government officials said they would try to get him some information, and so he heads back to New York. Look at the span of ocean between where he's leaving in Africa to JFK in New York. All right, and so as Alex reflects, he's embarrassed because he realizes that he has never really even cared about Africa, and he's always and had always stereotyped them in the past. A stereotype is when a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. Example, all blondes are unintelligent. Well, that's not true. Duh, because Miss Hendry's blonde and she's intelligent. All right, and so he gets a call from the government officials and they tell him that they have information for him. He heads back to Africa and he has to travel by safari to get to the griot. Alex makes the comment that during travel he worried that the natives viewed him as another pith helmet. Now, this, I know you've all seen this. This is an example of a pith helmet. That is what people who are tourists usually wear. All right, and so as they reached the land, he couldn't help but reminisce about Grandma and want to tell her how far he has come. Alex enters the village and is immediately able to spot the griot because he bore a presence. He is overcome with guilt at the sight of these villagers. He feels as if he is a hybrid African American, and they are legit Africans. And the whole village stares at him because they had never seen a Black American. So, wow. So he finally gets some information. He comes to the village and he spots the griot, and he's overcome with guilt. He's overcome with guilt because these people are true blue Africans. They are not wealthy. They are not in the best living conditions. And here he is, a probably in their eyes wealthy African American, and they had never even seen an African American before that's from America. And so the griot approaches Alex, and the interpreter speaks. The griot refers to Black Americans as people in exile from Africa. Exile is when people are forced from their homes to live somewhere else. And so that's interesting because the griot says pretty much refers to Americans as people in exile because of all of the African Americans that were originally shipped from Africa over to the United States. But then they begin to read the Kente clan's ancient history. And so what the griot would do would take this roll and he would just read all of the, or he would actually do it from memory most of the time, but he would read it out loud, the ancient history. And so for hours, the griot spouted off this information about the genealogy. So and so begot so and so, kind of similar to the Bible. And so we are going to stop right there because I want to finish up tomorrow. Okay. See you guys later.